So overall, it comes down to the run game. And for the Eagles on offense, you're going down somewhere where it's going to be loud. I mean, it's one of the loudest, most hostile places in the NFL to play. You have to run the ball. New Orleans has only given up 140 yards rushing, but I have reason to believe they just haven't been put in those situations where they have to defend the run. Now, the two problems really, A.J. Brown being out, it really does look like a phone booth game for Jalen Hurts. That vertical threat is not there the same way.
0-2 without A.J. Brown since
averaging
2022.
15 points a game. So not very good offensively without him. They have to figure out a way, and I think a way would be like, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot running RPOs. Let's not be downfield illegally. Let's run the football. Let's test these guys. As you've heard, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for you listeners each week. If y'all haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT, and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up. Welcome to the show. Packed show. Full slate. Even though we got a double header coming up on Monday night, it's a full slate. And there's some rock fights that I can't wait to talk about. This is like rock fight weekend. It's gonna be like 1940 out there for Packers Titans. The Bears, you better make it a rock fight. You know, Dolphins Seahawks, got to be a rock fight. Chargers Steelers, I mean, they need to broadcast this game in black and white. I cannot wait for this game. Okay, but I guess we got to talk about the big ones first. We'll get to that in a second. After we do the previews, we have Joey Bosa, joining us ahead of said rock fight. And we're going to finish up the show with some locks. Stanford Steve, Macon's going to join us as well. I am joined right now by Dr. Fax. Yerp.
Oh, too high structures have ruined football. Oh, it should be illegal. We've tried to force the offense to be better than the defense for the better part of the fucking century. And all of a sudden, over 2 games, the passing numbers are down. And everybody's freaking out. The sky's falling. What's a bigger threat to football, concussions or the too high shell? Let Mel Kiper tell it. It's the too high shell. And last time I checked, you could throw into cover 2. Like good quarterbacks can throw into cover 2. Like there are options available in that coverage. You know, sometimes the middle of the field's open. You know, if you want to hit the honey hole, it's there. You can manipulate guys underneath. Like, there's a lot of ways to throw at cover 2. It's just the guys have not been great out of the gate. And it's like, how shocked are we that teams who are going to play 17 games don't want to play their guys in preseason and risk it? And, you know, now what you're seeing is like the first month of the season is kind of like the preseason.
Yep.
So you got what you wanted. You got more games. It might be sloppy in September. I personally don't care. I'm happy football's back, and I don't care how shitty the quarterbacks look. You know, also, there's a lot of change going on around the league. Like, in the best situations, they're dealing with change. Cincinnati, you're one of your best quarterbacks in the league, Joe Burrow, he's dealing with a holdout that turned into a, you know, insurance policy deal, and you don't have T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon leaves.
And your offensive coordinator left.
Not that he was calling the plays, but you don't know what he was doing in that building. And honestly, looking at them week 2, I think they'll be fine. You know, Kansas City, they're dealing with one of the major pieces that they went out and got last year being on IR. Like, that was we got to put this fire out. We're going to get some speed. They're still faster. They're still better, but they're missing Hollywood Brown, and now they're missing Pacheco. And they're replacing a tackle. We'll talk about that in the in that preview. You know, like, go around the league. Baltimore is adjusting to what I think is a total
identity crisis offensively. You know, like I think it's very fixable, but they're adjusting as well. And if you went up and down the line, there's a bunch of quarterbacks that have really good coordinators who are shining, probably playing above what you thought they could, like Kyler Murray, like Derek Carr, like Sam Darnold. So like it's kind of upside down right now where the best guys are going through shit. You know, Justin Herbert, who could probably light the league on fire if he was in an offense with weapons outside and a good offensive coordinator.
Minshew had
that
numbers.
part. Yeah, Minshew did a good job last year, but like that's another premier quarterback that's running the football. J.K. Dobbins is running the ball for 9 yards a pop, so you're not going to see gaudy passing numbers there. It's just how they're going to do it. So like overall, I think this thing is going to shake itself out, and there's no need to panic if you're a fan of offensive football. Just ask the quarterbacks to play better or play more in the preseason. Listen, to set the stage for this whole podcast, a little less than one team a year goes to the playoffs starting 0-2. I don't know what the numbers are for 0-3, but there's a couple teams right now that I'm like, they're playoff teams and they're 0-2. Bengals, the Ravens. Like just off the top of my head in one division, you bounce around the league, there's some other teams that 0-2 and might have a shot. But the bottom line is like week 3 is a big deal for these teams. Like you're going to see some teams with their backs against the wall. And so let's get to it. We've got Philly and New Orleans. I'll start with that one just because it's close to home, and I just got done feeling better after that Monday night debacle. I mean, that was awful.
Real bad.
I mean, like after I put that bet in for the Eagles to win the East, I felt like $1 million. And now I feel like I'm going to owe somebody $1 million. And I didn't bet $1 million, but the point remains that, you know, like I come out of week 1 and I'm thinking, they'll figure it out. The grass was fucked up, the whole thing. The rushers will get it together. That's what everybody's making a big deal in Philadelphia about. Like I put out a review on Monday night. If you're an Eagles fan, go back and check it out. It's on YouTube. Like it's me melting down for 30 minutes, which is fun. Misery loves company. I pointed out the issues offensively, but this game stops and starts with what happens in the front 7 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And like, Nate, you know this. When you play a team that can go sideline to sideline, it's not just about setting edges. It's also about the guys inside.
Yep. Pursuit,
having their hat
angles, everything.
Having their hat in the gap.
Yep.
Like you got to, I mean, most of these New Orleans runs hit downhill, actually, the stretch plays. They're going to hit in the A. You know, they're going to stretch people. You're going to have to play the boot. You know, guys can't get greedy. Like, this is a perfect storm for a cutback run that goes for 60 yards when Bryce Huff or Nolan Smith or BG or one of these guys is like, man, I'm hearing what you're saying and I want to steal a rush. They're going to play boot in a situation on Sunday, and you better hope that they're right. And you better hope that when you run up the field, there isn't Alvin Kamara cutting back off that tackle's ass and going downhill for 45 yards. Like, I just want to set the stage for this thing because it is about not only the edges in the run game, but when I went back and looked at Atlanta, who ran outside zone like all day, these runs are hitting inside.
Yep.
You know, these are guys inside who need to play better in the run game and the pass.
And so this offseason, everyone has talked about how big of a loss it is, the Eagles having Kelsey on the offensive side. But did we underestimate how big of a loss Fletcher Cox would be for this D-line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I underestimated it. I thought those younger guys were ready to take the next step, and maybe they are, and it's been a bad start. But Fletcher Cox is a throwback. Like he'll jam a gap up. Like he's gonna play sound. He's gonna play with his hands. And so this is a situation where I'm sure Fletcher Cox has gotten some calls from the Eagles front office over the first 2 weeks, or at the very least 100 of his friends and acquaintances being like, yo, dude, I saw you at the link. You look kind of skinny. Can you put on 20 real quick and hop back in there in a 3 technique? Because that's what they need. They need a guy inside. We'll get to the pass rush, but it's mainly about the run front. Because I'm going to tell you what, you go down to New Orleans, or even if you played him at the link, in a vacuum, I'm licking my chops looking at Trevor Penning. They hide this guy, the right tackle for the New Orleans Saints. He's a guy who coming into the season, you were like, oh, they'll replace him. They'll figure out something. Because in pass pro, it can be a rough picture.
Mm-hmm.
They did a great job in Dallas, and I think this summarizes what New Orleans all about. Is they did a great job of taking him away for a defense. Like you're not going to get one-on-ones with Trevor Penning. You're not going to get one-on-ones with the rookie. I probably counted 5 to 7 clean one-on-one drop back passes that Trevor Penning actually had to go through against that front. So when they walk out of that stadium and you're like, oh, they blocked those edges. Well, they blocked them on first and second down. And you slow people down with this play action. You slow people down, worried about the boot, and they're maxing up. So a lot of times there's only a couple guys out in the route. So it's a phone booth game for the defense, and the guys inside have to win. Now, if you're going to get to third down, I need the edges to win, right? Like, and if you're in third and long and you force them into situations where they actually have to drop back and defend, like you have to win these matchups. And a lot of people are making a big deal about the Huff thing.
I was just about to say, words of encouragement. What would you say to a guy?
Here's what I'd say to Huff. I wish I had his number. I'd say, hey, Bryce, like I saw you rush last year. One of the things that made you great is you were very multiple in your bag. Like you could do whatever, right? And all I see him doing right now is stuttering and getting to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like as a former rusher, that stutter is not going to get you anything if you're not threatening the inside.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him take a single inside move. I need him to pull the counters out of his bag. I need him to sink a long arm in there because he's not the strongest in the world. Ironically, this would be the week if you're looking at just the tackles where you're like, they're going to get right. Here's what I would do if I was the Eagles. I want to see more number 59. I don't know his name, but I like the way he plays. Inside, plays with his hands.
Thomas Booker.
Thomas Booker. I like Thomas Booker. So, like, I want to see more Thomas Booker. I want to see more, bear-type fronts. I want to see a zeroed-up nose. I want to see 2 3s. I want to see 2 edges. I want to see you gap this thing out a little bit and build a wall, because if they get out guys in the route and play action, you don't need 10 guys in coverage. A lot of these are 2 3-man routes.
Mm-hmm.
You take care of the check down with Kamara, you rally to tackle the football, and you got to win on the edge. I like the edges that Nolan Smith sets. I don't know if Eagles fans are like real down on this guy, but I'll just tell you, in the run game, if you want a guy who can set an edge, I actually think he sticks his hat in there. When you put Huff in traffic, he can set a 2-man side edge, which I mean guard and tackle.
Nolan Smith.
Like I could do that right now.
Took a nasty chip.
Yeah, no question. Which you can't control that stuff. But ultimately, what I want to see is when they have a big wing or a bunch of tight ends over there, I want to see a guy who can sort through traffic. And to me, Nolan's ready to do that right now. The tackles inside have to be good. So overall, it comes down to the run game. And for the Eagles on offense, you're going down somewhere where it's going to be loud. I mean, it's one of the loudest, most hostile places in the NFL to play. You have to run the ball. New Orleans has only given up 140 yards rushing, but I have reason to believe they just haven't been put in those situations where they have to defend the run. And I think the middle of that defense up front, there is some leakage there that you can take advantage of. Now, the 2 problems really, A.J. Brown being out,
Mm-hmm.
it really does look like a phone booth game for Jalen Hurts. That vertical threat is not there the same way.
0-2 without A.J. Brown since
averaging
2022.
15 points a game. So not very good offensively without him. They have to figure out a way. And I think a way would be like, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot running RPOs. Let's not be downfield illegally. Let's run the football. Let's test these guys, because what you don't want to do is lose the time of possession battle to this team. So I think the injuries are big. I mean, like, and now Saquon's your scariest guy. Demario Davis is Fred Warner Jr.
Mm.
He's packaged differently, but he's a guy that can run with Saquon on a wheel. He'll give you a fighting chance out there, and he'll patrol the middle of the field. So you've got to find ways to get a matchup that you like. And Dotson and him haven't really gotten on the same page. Maybe you see a lot more Dotson this week. Marshawn Lattimore sat last week, so he could play this week. I expect to see him. So those are the 2 biggest injuries that you got to keep an eye on, and obviously that breaks New Orleans' way. But I got a funny feeling, guys, that the Eagles can hang. I've been telling myself all week, my brain's been telling me all week the Eagles can't hang. But I think there's a chance that if you go down there and you handle the run game, which to me is want to, and it's attention to detail, and it's commitment of bodies, then you have a fighting chance on third down. I do. I think you got a fighting chance in this game.
I think it gets worse.
You think it gets worse?
Before it gets better.
God, I hope you're wrong, but I'm probably wrong because I have to acknowledge that this is the one part of the breakdown where the fan in me takes over a little bit.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Taysom Hill's props to come out because
he didn't.
Eagles rushing.
He was DNP yesterday. Eagles rushing defense has to be better. The tackles are the key. And Zach Bond can't be on the ground. Like, I saw a bunch of guys getting cut. Now, the good news is this offensive line is not as good as the offensive line just faced. I think the Atlanta offensive line went out and proved something. They took care of your best guys, and it is what it is. We're talking about the NFC East. Let's move on to Ravens-Cowboys, and I cannot wait for this game. These guys might not know it later in the – if I don't get to play Ravens-Cowboys later in the pick'em competition – I'm going to be pissed off. That's probably my number 2 game. Just look ahead here.
Dallas season ticket holders are sick. They haven't seen a win in a while.
Who do you like?
I think I like the Cowboys.
I think I like the Ravens. So I think I like the Ravens, and here's why I've talked myself into them.
They don't have an identity yet.
They don't have an identity yet offensively, but they have 2 games of tape where I think they're working through some stuff. Okay, like here's the deal. They also have moved the ball up and down the field. They've gained a lot of yardage. They've also shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they've gone full Plaxico Burress over the first 2 weeks of the season. 173 yards in penalties. Like, at some point, Harbaugh, who's a hell of a coach, John Harbaugh is a hell of a coach. He's got a hell of a track record. He's got a coach like that guy because this team is not ready to play the first 2 weeks of the season. Just looking at it, and on top of that, there have been a lot of questionable decisions that I think they've made. We talked about like 2 bad challenges last week, running out of timeouts before the half when you can get points, running out of timeouts at the end of the game, which affected their ability to go down and maybe win it. Like, these are real things. Like, defensively, we'll get there in a second. I think there's nothing you can do other than try to keep your linebackers out of bad matchups. But there are things offensively you can do from a decision-making standpoint and with depth that could immediately turn this thing around for them a little bit. And one of them is somebody I've talked about a lot this week. I told you I went into this thing and I had to talk about this offense on Inside the NFL. And, I was going to lead with, hey, like, the pistol is the great American compromise. It's a chance for Derrick Henry to run out of a home look. It's a chance for Lamar Jackson to run his kind of like QB read stuff, option, to pass out of the gun. He doesn't like being under center. And Derek, I don't think, likes being in the gun as much as he likes being in the home. So there are all those issues, but it's kind of a moot point if you can't protect Lamar Jackson, especially going down to Dallas and dealing with these 2 guys who are going to say, fuck, I didn't get a one-on-one all last week. This guy Macari, this guy Falele, the right side of this line, we're going to eat these guys alive. Well, if I were Harbaugh, I would, in a heartbeat, put in Rosengarten. He's the tackle from Washington, the rookie that I talked about this early in the week. I could not believe it when I turned on tape. This dude was blocking Max Crosby, Nate. Like, they were rotating tackles, which is very rare.
Yeah.
And I think if you rotate guys, that can throw a defensive line off. But they're rotating to figure out who's going to win the job. And so over a 2-week span, what I've seen is this guy Macari is better in the run game. But he kind of gets out-athleted on the edge when you deal with a lot of the best rushers in the game, like Max Crosby. He's a left end. There's a lot of left ends who can rush. I don't want Lamar to be under siege back there. Give Lamar a chance to extend a play. Lamar is more dangerous as the play goes on. There's some quarterbacks like Jalen, the longer the play goes on, I'm like, yo, just burn it or run.
Yeah.
With Lamar, I want him to get into scramble drill. I know he can pass from the pocket, and there's time to do things with timing for them. I think a lot of that stuff comes down to getting your matchups with Likely, getting in the quick game, that sort of thing. But I think when it comes to choosing a right tackle who can block in the run game a little bit more than he can pass protect, I would rather have the guy that can dance with Max Crosby.
Yeah.
And at right guard, I don't know whose baby Ben Cleveland punched, but that guy can play. So what's going on? I know he talked about like injuries and being moved around in the preseason, but like, you're 0-2. You don't have time to bring a rookie right guard along. This guy can get another opportunity when he's ready. If the better guys on the right side of the line are the younger guys, play the younger guys, because I think you're gonna get more out of them. So the main thing to me is like, and for the offense, get your matchups. This guy Carson He's a young dude. The secondary had a hard time last week. I would try to dictate as many matchups as I can. If I can get Zay Flowers on somebody, it's kind of a 2023 Niners situation. And Nolan and I were talking about this. Like, we used to always talk about Ambry Thomas being the guy that you try to find when you were playing San Francisco last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to do things so that he wasn't on the field unless they were in nickel at times. Jordan Lewis is their slot guy, right? But they're actually playing him outside to keep Carson off the field, at least for now. But when you get them in nickel, then this guy's got to come on the field, and you can try to get some matchups with him. I think likely in the middle of the field is going to be big for them. I just talked about that. I would get in 12, see if they'll base up, get 3 linebackers on the field, and win your matchups. And if they get nickel, I think you run the ball at them, because the middle of that defense, the spine of that defense, is something that, and again, it's kind of like talking about Baltimore and their linebackers. It's hard to find depth when you can only suit so many linebackers and have so many linebackers on your team. It's hard to escape, for Dallas. Like, some new linebacker's not going to walk through the door. Some new safety's not going to walk through the door. So I actually look at this matchup and I say, I like the Ravens here. And defensively, and this is the big key, and they better. If they can make Dallas one-dimensional, I love their chances. I really do.
And with that said, do you think Dallas will try and run the ball, or since the Ravens give up so much in the air, they're just going to –
Well, the Ravens have given up a lot of explosives.
Yeah.
And that's really – it's good of you to point it out, because I think people have this idea of the Ravens like they're really sound defensively. But Zach Orr, new coordinator, replacing a safety. I think the rushers have been good. I think Owe looked great last week. I think Ajabo's looked good. Kyle Van Noy has gutted it out in Stevie Wonder mode with the sunglasses on, with a broken orbital. Matabike is Matabike. The guys you worry about are the linebackers. And you have to make a decision like, can Trenton Simpson be your guy?
Mm-hmm.
Because if he can come along, you'll be a lot better off when you have 2 linebackers on the field. Roquan, to me, looks a little slower this year. I don't know if he's dinged or what. The corners got torched last week. But you look at Dallas, and you could make an argument that the weapons – I made the argument last week that the Raiders' weapons were better than the Ravens' weapons. I could make an argument this week, and it's pretty compelling, that Dallas doesn't have what the Raiders had. You like Devontae or you like CD? I like Devontae. Not by a wide margin, but that's Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
You like Brock Bowers or you like Jake Ferguson? I like Brock Bowers. Just in the little bit that I've seen from him, his ceiling is high. The rack yardage this guy's going to accumulate over his career is going to be crazy.
Rack him.
I don't want to oversimplify it, but I do think the Ravens might look at this game and be like, yeah, the quarterback's better, but I think we can drill down on these guys if we make them one-dimensional. Because I don't think this is an offense that's going to be able to pound the ball. So do they get an empty? Do they try to pick on linebackers the way Kansas City did? I think the Ravens have a really good opportunity here, and it's going to be a hostile environment. You talk about a team with their back against the wall. I kind of like Baltimore with their back against the wall. This feels like a spot for me where you go down into a hostile environment, and on the bus ride in, nobody's fucking talking. On the plane ride over, nobody's talking. Everybody's asshole's a little bit tight. We got to go get this thing going. And I think this is going to be a spot for them where their back's against the wall. They cut out the penalties and they play better. If they don't, they're in trouble. But Likely's got to be the guy. Likely has to be the guy. And you have to get your matchups on Carson if you can. If you put Zay Flowers outside, great. So, yeah, I like the Ravens here. I really do.
I grabbed Likely this week off the waiver wire.
Why is he on the waiver wire?
I don't know.
What, are you in a league with a bunch of drug addicts?
Yeah, with you.
That's unbelievable. You really are.
It's the Green Light League.
Somebody want to tell me he was on the waiver wire? Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm in too many leagues. Okay, Detroit, Arizona. Let's go out to the desert.
Oh.
This is not a rock fight, although Dan Campbell better be trying to make this a rock fight.
He has to win or he's going to have to buy an RV.
Why?
Did you hear what happened?
No.
He has to buy a new house because they lost last week and the fans found out his address and they've been pranking, or it's a security risk now for him.
Now, I don't want all
family.
Detroit Lions fans to take this personally, because if it wasn't you, just don't say anything. If you don't support it, just don't say anything. A hit dog will holler. if you're one of these people that's egging Dan Campbell's house, you should have to move out of the state of Michigan because this guy's given you something to actually be excited about. You know why you're disappointed? Because you're excited because your standard has raised. Okay, so you lost one game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who matched up pretty damn well, and this guy told you after the game, like, I want that, what I did back. Like, I want the end of the half back. Let me tell you something. Dan Campbell didn't line up in shotgun 80% of the time in the red zone. He didn't go 1 for 7 in the red zone. That's Ben Johnson. That's supposed to be your next head coach somewhere, okay? This guy's turned down multiple jobs. He's the belle of the ball, okay? But if you're such a hot name, and I think Ben Johnson's great, why are you in gun? Why be you? Why are you down there in the red zone? They went 1 for 7, okay? And it looked to me like, one, they were afraid to commit to running the football because they're popping the ball out on the perimeter with these screens, and I can't say for sure if they preferred not to run into certain box counts or whatever it is, but if I'm the Lions offense, I pride myself on being able to run into a heavy box. I pride myself on giving the ball to David Montgomery and saying, like, the end of that fucking overtime game.
Yeah.
And I think what happened is they got so deathly afraid of Vita Vea, they didn't want to put Jared Goff under center, and Vita Vea was abusing people, Ragnow included. And, you know, Ragnow is a damn good player, but Vita Vea is it's like blocking a hippopotamus, man. Like, so at the end of the day, you can't let big, scary people scare you out of being a big, scary front or a big, scary team. That's not what bullies do. Bullies don't get bullied. So you got to figure out a way to get that guy blocked. And when it's time to throw the ball, you have to trust Jared Goff to throw the ball into the end zone over the middle of the field. Everything was just outside. It was all screens, quick game outside. And guess what? Tampa Bay, they just sat in 3 and 4, and they rallied and tackled. They were like, hey, we're going to keep everything in front of us. We're a fast defense. We're going to fuck you guys up when you catch the ball. And I thought they did a great job of that. Obviously, this is a different kind of challenge in a good way for the Lions. Like, you have to get I've talked about the Cardinals a lot this year. This might be the game where they decide, hey, we got to go out and get a rusher because we lost this game 40-37. And gosh, we're right there. This team could be in the Super Bowl, the Lions. And we hung with them, but we couldn't get pressure on Goff. You know, Goff under pressure last week, looking at the numbers, was terrible. I mean, he was 9 for 17, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 35 rating. The way he started the season has not been great, okay? And I think he's a good quarterback. I spend half my time here arguing with Detroit fans for not putting him in the top 10. You tell me, those of you who chastised me 2 weeks ago, has he played like a top 10 quarterback? And it could be the preseason, but I'll just say this, and it might offend some of you. I think everything about this game, if you leave it to the quarterbacks, tilts Arizona's way. I think Kyler Murray's the better quarterback right now. And so if I'm Dan Campbell, today is Thursday. Today is the day that you do nickel and everything. But I hope that Wednesday, when you did inside run and you did all that, you walked into the fucking team meeting room and you grabbed the clock off the wall and you ate it in front of the team. Because that's what this thing has to be for the Lions. It has to be like a death grip, a 60-minute death grip. We're going to go on the road. We're going to possess the football. We're going to run at these guys who are scrappy but not talented as a defense. And they have 2 good safeties. They got Dennis Gardeck, who balled his ass off last week. But this, again, could be the game where you walk out of it if you're the Cardinals and say, fuck, we're kind of for real. We need to go get a Hassan Reddick. We need to go get, a Baron Browning or whatever.
What about Connor on offense for the Cardinals? Do you think they're going to be able to run on that defense?
DJ Reader looks really good being in there. Like, DJ looks healthy. I was wondering how he'd look. He looks healthy. I think the biggest thing for the Cardinals is not getting afraid to run the football. Like, don't get scared out of doing it because you are still a good running football team. James Conner and Kyler are responsible for a ton of explosives so far this year on the ground. Like, that's what they do. They're going to give the ball to James Conner. He's a workhorse. I think for Detroit's defense, it's about how Carlton Davis hangs in there with Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a big body, but Carlton's a big body in his own right. It's just MHJ is a mutant. How are you going to defend McBride? How do you choose to do that? Are you going to mix it up? could you take Brian Branch out of what he's doing more customarily now and match up with McBride a little bit? Like I think the McBride matchup is huge. I think a hidden matchup is Dortch. Like Dortch is a guy he's a great man beater. They love to man up on third down. If you do something, the roll coverage to Harrison or you take him away, like I need that guy to win. And Aiden Hutchinson, who is balling, has another fish this week. I mean, this guy's in the fish market.
But the quarterback,
he's a pescatarian.
Quarterback's not a fish.
No, the QB's not a fish, and you have to. That's the thing.
That's like you could win quick with a quarterback like this, and he can make you look really dumb.
He can slow you down
and open up that edge.
He
more,
can
more of a minnow.
Yeah, he's a minnow. he can slow you down so that as a rush unit, like let me take you inside the defensive line room when you're getting ready to face,
muddle rush. Keep them in.
Oh, it's just like and on Sunday, these coaches are going to be on the sideline screaming, "Win a rush!" And all week they're going to scare you out of rushing.
Yep.
If you're Detroit, you can't be afraid to rush him. I would be adding a fifth rusher. I would be adding a fourth rusher in a three-man look. I would be muddling the middle of that.
Would you spy him? Would you try to spy him?
I mean, I think if spying people worked all the time, like,
it's not going to work on him, though.
Buffalo tried to spy him with Dorian Williams. They walked him up in the A-gap, and it's like the guy's running in place. So my thing is, like, you need to spy him on the move. You need to funnel him. If I were a D coordinator, I would funnel him away from his throwing hand. I would have somebody adding towards his throwing hand. I would be getting as many zeroed up looks as I can on third down with somebody that can kick a center's ass. Now, I don't know if they have that guy. I think they do, but like it's DJ Reader or somebody like that. It's Aleem McNeil. Like, do you want them on the field on third down?
Mm-hmm.
I think the one functionality of a guy like that playing Kyler Murray would be like, if you can get on a center and walk that center back into him and you have people rolling to his throwing hand, the windows you have to worry about with Kyler are out the gate to his throwing hand side. And actually, he likes to escape in that opposite B gap. So if you can just kind of like have that covered, I'm not saying give him his left side because the guy can spin like a top and make great throws, but we are not going to let him roll to his ball hand side. Like that is the thing as a defensive end. If I was playing Kyler Murray, as soon as he gets out of the pocket, I know as I'm running after him, I'm going to get yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
And you should get yelled at if you let him out. But I just think those matchups are really big for Detroit. It's Carlton Davis on Marvin Harrison Jr. It's however you deal with McBride. I don't think Amik Robertson is big enough. And how you funnel Kyler Murray. But you have to win the time of possession game. And Jared Goff has to play better. He's got to make throws. This should be the game where there's no excuses. There's not pressure on you. I think Gannon probably tries to heat him up a little bit. This is going to be interesting.
The Texans at the Vikings. Texans favored by 2.
I love this game. I think this game is really interesting. And I think if you're the Texans, you got to watch out a little bit. And this is a team I put in the Super Bowl. But in the current state of affairs, like week 3 going up to play Minnesota, who they've got 11 sacks on the year. Brock Purdy's walking up, and he's coached by Kyle Shanahan, and he's starstruck at midfield talking to B. Flo. He's like, "Oh my God, how you do this stuff that you're doing?" And all the new guys have been, great returns. Like Van Ginkel's made plays. Grenard had a sack last week. Cashman was all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
I almost had a conniption because Ryan Clark actually won Football Guy of the Week this week. He gave Blake Cashman and said he was the best linebacker on the field Sunday. No, he wasn't, but he was pretty good. Because anytime that Fred Warner's on the field, you can't say that. Now, Minnesota's defense is in a good spot if Mixon is out and Pierce is out. They're not practicing. I would imagine one of those two is going to be up, but these running backs take a beating. That was a physical game the other night. So the question is, if you can make them one-dimensional and you get them in 3rd and long, what are you going to do? Are you going to be you? Are you going to blitz this guy?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, do you think B-Flow will stay true
to who he is? I do.
Yeah. Even though CJ does really well.
I know, he shreds the blitz. But this is different. I kind of put Brian Flores in a different class. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, all blitzes are not equal.
Yeah.
Like all blitz designs are not equal. So, We've seen Matt Eberflus try to heat him up. We've seen Gus Bradley try to heat him up a little bit. I'd have to go back and look. But this guy has already built this reputation of a blitz beater in the NFL. But like Brian Flores is the blitzer right now. He is the resident psychopath in the NFL right now. And he's very good at it. And so if I'm B-Flow, I do what we do. I really do. And Minnesota's offense, like, they're going to play 3. This defensive scheme, Sam Darnold knows really well. He was just in San Francisco. That's where D'Amico was the year before, but it kind of ran some semblance of that. It was an imitation. Wilkes was imitating Ryans. He knows this scheme. He's practiced against it. He's practiced against it with better players. He played against it last week with better players. So I actually feel bullish about Darnold's chances of going in there and making this thing a game. I really do. They're at home. That building rocks. You can see it. Like I said, Grenard, the first play of last week's game, he was shot out of a cannon. They're going on silent count, and it is loud. And so Darnold's got to hit the seams when he gets that vertical shot down the hash. He's got to be able to hit it. Last week, he threw a beautiful ball down the seam. That's going to be there for you, and they have to take the check downs. And they have to the rack yardage from these backs has to be really good. Because if I'm the Texans, I saw that play backed up on the goal line last week.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I saw it. I seen it with my own eyes.
Synced it.
And Stingley had to get the fuck back after week 1 because of, Anthony Richardson and the jugs machine. Week 2, they improved. I think they're going to try to keep things in front of them. And I do think he blitzes, but not as much as last week. I thought last week was like a fuck you, Shane Waldron, fuck you, Caleb Williams. Like, let's see what you got. This week, I think you got enough respect for KOC to know that, like, we can't heat this guy up that many times. You're on the road, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think communication is going to be key for both groups. Definitely going to be key for that offense.
Stephon Diggs, first time back.
Yeah,
in Minnesota
sure.
Since the walk-off touchdown.
It's the Diggs Bowl. There's a couple Diggs Bowls this week. I'll talk about that in a second. But I cannot wait to see this game. Totally shaped by the decision, as you just pointed out, to send Diggs to Buffalo. This game is like completely shaped by that decision.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 2020, send Diggs to Buffalo. Minnesota famously laughs at the Jalen Reagor pick. Not funny. And and then they scooped up Jefferson, and they've been relevant because of him since. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they really have. No matter who's played quarterback, they're a tough out because they have that guy. If he's not on the field, it's a different ball game. This whole game has been shaped by that decision. And on top of that, Jalen Reagor, not for nothing, posted a meme this week of something like a Bugatti in like a carport in a house that, like, under next to a house that's probably like
a trap house.
It's a trap house.
Yes. Hilarious.
Well, Mayo had that thing repoed.
Like, damn.
Mayo got him out of there immediately. He was like, bro, like, you're posting memes right now? Like, I just started doing this. You're not Jalen Polk. Like, you can't.
My views do not affect my employer, or do not reflect
my employer.
That's what you have to put in your header.
I don't know that would have. Okay, so what's the other big game this weekend? We got to wait for this one.
We got 2. We got Chargers at Steelers.
I can't wait.
Team.
We're going to talk to Joey Bosa about this later, so I don't need to go too heavy on this game. But the Steelers have scored 1 offensive touchdown, and all the while they've looked like a team that you're like, oh, they're good on offense. Like, like, because you're looking at it through a lens of like, what are they doing with Justin Fields? And I think what they're doing with Justin Fields is great.
Smart.
It's great. It's smart. But this week, you're playing a top 10 QB. Like, you're playing a guy with ability. Now, he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, and you got to deal with J.K. Dobbins first. I would print out a picture of his face and just put it all over the facility, because this is the key to the game. Guys run every time he's touched the ball, he's running for an average of 27 feet. I like to put it in that perspective, not 9 yards. 'Cause 9 yards sounds like a lot, but when you put it in perspective, like 27 feet, he's picking up a short bus every time he touches the football. Like, put it in that perspective. That is embarrassing for the guys that have been playing this group. Obviously, this is a physical outfit. Totally flipped on its head. Last year, I thought they were finessed. They got their asses kicked by Vegas in prime time. Like, it was like a holiday game, and everybody had to watch. It was like seeing something on X where you're like, I didn't need to see a guy get electrocuted fixing a telephone pole, or like some guy get run over by a train. Like, we had to watch that. And it was ugly, but they are a totally physical team now. Joe Alt, if he gets lined up against TJ Watt, is going to be awesome. Joe Alt looks like, and somebody said this week, and
Battle
we'll
of
talk to about
the Battle of the Great Whites.
Roman said he could look like, Roman said he could look like he could have an Ogden type career. And that's high praise. Okay. This guy looks more athletic than he did in college to me. And it's funny how some guys make the jump and it works, and nobody can say exactly why. Otherwise we'd nail every pick, but it's a different kind of athleticism at the pro level, and his size, his length. I worried about maybe his foot speed, but he is just such a massive human being, and he looks actually pretty quick out there. So
how well do you think it helps the Chargers that they stayed on the East Coast?
I always think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing to get together as a team. I think Harbaugh is all about like bigging up his team, getting them to play together, play for each other. There's a real sense of community there. And I can remember, I tell this story a lot, the year we won the Super Bowl, we went out west to play the Seahawks, got our asses kicked. Well, not our asses kicked. It came down to the last 2 minutes. And we're all disappointed, and we stay on the West Coast for a week. We lick our wounds. We get right, and we go beat the Rams in the Coliseum and overcome the Carson injury. And I don't think we do that if we went back home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if we win the Super Bowl if we don't have that week. That week was huge for us. You know, guys spending time with each other, like we're in the building all day, but it's like training camp all over again.
Yeah.
And it's less stressful because you're prepping for a game. And so I love, staying on the East Coast, staying on the West Coast. Palmer's beat up. So this is a game where you absolutely have to commit resources to stopping the run, because otherwise it's like Quentin Johnson and Hayden Hurst. Like, you got to believe with the revamped secondary and the way this front plays, the pass game is going to be tough going for Justin Herbert. Here's what the game comes down to. Two teams that are kind of like the Spider-Man meme a little bit. Mm-hmm. They really are. There's one team from the West Coast, but they're kind of blue collar. They wear powder blue. They're powder blue collar. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And the team in Pittsburgh, well, they are the
Black
personification.
Black Air Forces.
It's a powder blue collar versus the Black Air Forces. You know what I'm saying? And so you've got like Pittsburgh, who is the personification of this franchise, for better or for worse. Like, the way they played over the first 2 weeks of the season, it's just very Steelers. Mm-hmm. And the question in my mind is, like, if one team makes the other one-dimensional, who has the advantage? It's obviously, I think, the Chargers because of the quality of the quarterback. But there's an argument to be made that Justin Fields has thrown the ball when he's thrown the ball as well as anybody in that division this year. I mean, like, Joe Burrow's Joe Burrow. But what I am saying is, like, the quality of throws that Justin Fields has been asked to make sparingly, mm-hmm. he has made them. So I'm excited to see him pressed at some point in this game to where he has to win it for them. I think that could be what it comes down to.
And I want to tip my hat to Mike Tomlin, because every year we go through this, or a lot of years, and it's rinse, wash, and repeat for him.
Rinse, wash, and repeat.
It's just like everyone kind of, if you doubting him, and then the Steelers start playing and they start winning, and you're just like, oh shit, it's the Steelers.
No, I mean, honestly, for them to start this way is huge. If you had the over win total, which I stared at for 30 minutes and didn't hit it, like, they had to get wins early in their schedule. I think it gets tougher later. And what this does is it gives you 2 wins in your back pocket while you build an identity.
Yep.
You build confidence, you build an identity. And I think that this team looks like a team that could slowly change who they are to suit certain situations. But this won't be the week where they have to go 5 wide and play from behind immediately, as long as you get the run game under control.
I told you my theory earlier. I don't think the two brothers can win in the same week. So I'm monitoring that Ravens-Cowboys game to see.
I think this is how it's going to work out. Ravens win, Steelers win, maybe.
Sunday Night Football, Chiefs in Atlanta, favored by 3.5.
So I think the most important thing here is like Kansas City's defense is going to show up to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think they're going to be so focused coming into this game. When you're a franchise like Kansas City and you turn the ball over 3 times, 1 pick actually gets called back. I think you're let off the hook on a penalty late, and it was a penalty. You know, all these things that Cincy did to hand you the game, they're not coming in on Monday down Isaiah Pacheco like, you know, reading their press clippings. This team's going to be fucking angry and focused, I think. And I think the defense is going to come in there and see what they saw on tape Monday night and be like, we're in a totally different weight class than this front 7. You know, you think about Drew Tranquil being, you know, kind of a guy that came along last year and played some big snaps for them. They're down Willie Gay now. Bolton was out last year for a while. Tranquil's a guy Philly would love to have. You know, like Chenal has played his ass off. Spags gets guys to play sound, and he knows what kind of guys he wants in his room. And I think up front, they're going to build a wall. They'll know how to fit up outside zone. And I think when it comes to the pass rush, Kirk Cousins better be ready to take snaps under center because Chris Jones is going to be on you like that. So if he's not 100% mobile, maybe you stay in the pistol, maybe you stay in gun. Because they are going to get a lot more pressure up the middle, you know, playing Chris Jones than they got last week. And I think a lot of Jalen Carter, I know it's like polarizing right now to say that, but Chris Jones he's one of one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the middle of the pocket is going to affect it's going to test Kirk's mobility. And I think they'll be able to fit up these runs. And I think they have a matchup for Drake London and McDuffie. You know, he's another big, long guy. You saw how Joey Porter Jr. matched up against him in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's probably better. The scheme is going to be on point. And so I just think it comes down to what the Chiefs offense does. You know, like,
and I was just about to ask you, how big of a drop off do you think it's going to be without Pacheco?
It's a big drop off.
And then they're probably going to do running back by committee. You got Steele. They just signed
RBC.
Hunt.
Yeah,
they just signed Hunt, who I like. I loved in that offense.
Man, I loved Hunt in 2019.
Yeah, and if we
was he good 5 years ago? So just
that's hate.
No,
that's hate.
No, but
he was good. He was good when he was on the Browns. Like, I feel like when he plays, he's the guy in the red zone. If you get him the rock, he knows how to get the ball in the end zone.
Okay, but they have a guy like that, the guy with the crocodile. That guy looks like a red zone, like 101 guy. Like,
got to hold on to the rock.
Here's what I think they'll do. I think they'll look at this and say, hey, Pacheco's a big deal for us. It's interesting they have to suddenly win in a way that's flipped from last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather your best player in the passing game have people not letting him down outside and have to figure out how to – you can't scheme up your pass game in the run game. This sounds like one of those clips where the guy's like, you can lose games in the NFL. Who said that? And it went viral. You can lose games and not win them. You know, whatever he said. You can't scheme up the pass game in the run game, but you can scheme up the run game in the pass game. And I think, you know, if I was going to have any coordinator down a guy in the backfield and any quarterback, I'll take Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to figure out how to get the ball out to Rashee Rice on screens. They're going to figure out how to
fly sweep
to Worthy. Like, I love watching him run around. By the way, I don't think he's played on turf yet.
Man.
Worthy on turf? I want to see him get the ball with a full head of steam. I might be oversimplifying it, but I think that and Raheem Morris did a great job on Monday night. Like, that's the side of the ball where I think, like, they are really well coached. But outside the middle of the field, they don't have the talent to hang with these guys. I mean, A.J. Terrell is a good player, but, like, the sum of the parts, when you add the quarterback into the mix, Travis Kelce, who's playing possum, maybe he's not going to play possum anymore this week, right? Because you need another weapon out there. I feel like the Chiefs can take care of business, and not the worst week to be figuring out who your left tackle is. Is it Kingsley? Is it Morris? You know, Trey Hendrickson is not on that team. Judon's a guy you got to get blocked, but they don't have an edge guy like that right now.
Which of the rock fight games are you most excited about?
I got to be honest, 2 out of the 3, and we're alluding to Green Bay, Tennessee, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Miami, Seattle, which will turn into a rock fight because that's what Miami wants it to be, ironically. I'm most excited to see Tennessee respond. I really am. I'm going to hit all 3 of these games real quick, but I think Tennessee's in a good spot here. All right, Jordan Love is a limited participant. That doesn't mean he's going to play. Like, if you're the Packers, you would be insane to play him this week. Like, I don't know where he is, but another week's not going to hurt. And you stole that game last week.
Let Malik get his revenge.
And Will might give you the game.
Will might give you the game, but guess what? They feel the same way about Anthony Richardson. And I'll say this, like, they did a great job with Malik Willis last week. I've given Matt LaFleur a lot of credit. It is hard to do that 2 weeks in a row. That is why they call them spot starts. It's not like a month spot start. It's like, hey, that was an impressive spot that they put Malik Willis in. And it was the perfect team to play because they've given up a fucking half a mile on the ground this year, the Colts. The difference is Denard's going to have these guys ready to play. You got a week of tape to look at the run concepts that they're going to go to. You have a week of tape to look at the ways they're going to get into the passing game, like little quick outs, move the pocket, that sort of thing. Like the Titans are a good defense. They have guys in the front who will battle. And you got to remember the Colts just lost Buckner. We'll get to that in a second. I think that this is a spot where Tennessee stands up. They're pissed off. They gave away 2 games. You could argue they should be 2-0. If Will Levis just is not a terrorist.
Yikes.
Yeah, he's blowing up the whole team. He's blowing up the whole game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you need to wand him before he comes into the game. You need to have him walk through airport security because he's trying to blow that team up every time and I like Will Levis's heart. I like when Will Levis runs the football. I don't even mind when he throws the football. But just don't do that. And we all know what that is. If he can do that, I think they can get guys on the perimeter in the run game. You got to get the guys blocked up front. That's the whole thing. But I said this earlier. They think the same thing you said about Will Levis giving him the game. Anthony Richardson is magnificent to watch at times. But he's also going to give you the game. He's thrown a lot of interceptable balls this year. So what's it going to take to beat an offense with Malik Willis at the helm? I think it takes 17, 20 points if you can stop the run. And to me, if you get 1 touchdown on offense, you set one up on defense via a pick or a turnover, and then, you kick some field goals, you can get out of here with a win.
And you got the DBs to load the box. Listen, and Chicago, Indy, all right, Bears offense, if you do not run the ball for 200 yards, everybody should be put in concrete slippers and dropped into Lake Michigan. Seriously.
D Swift has 48 total rushing yards.
On 24 attempts.
This is the perfect game to get him going.
This is the perfect game.
Confident game.
And listen, we can get into the protection. Last year, we talked about how, hey, these guys are playing well. Top 5 pass rush win rate. Did I read that? The offensive line for the Chicago Bears, did they all die? So what's happening? You know what I'm saying? What's happening? Did Justin Fields slow rushers down that much? Worrying about what he was going to do with his legs. Whatever it is right now, it better be running quick game. And luckily the Colts have not gotten to the quarterback, so maybe you have time to work on this kid. Buckner is out. You're down Allen, but they had to replace a corner last week. And that corner, whoever played last week for them, just got done with a 60-minute Oklahoma drill. He hasn't seen a passing offense in any form or fashion. So this is Caleb's easiest test so far, relatively speaking. It is on the road. And you wonder if Gus Bradley, who is not like a blitzing type guy, is going to say, hey, I'm not going to sit on my hands this week. We're down Buckner. We gotta make pressure happen. If I'm the Bears, I make that quarterback beat you. I talked about the turnover-worthy plays. And then Miami, they're going on the road. They got a great offensive mind in Mike McDaniel, and they've had 10 days, and Thompson has played. So this is not going to be easy. 3 yards a pop right now. Charbonnet is running for under 3, like 2.7, and they're down Walker. You need your explosives. I would throw the ball. Miami has given up their fair share. New England ran the ball all over the Seahawks, and you might say, well, they can commit more bodies into the box, but can you? Like, can you really? Those guys outside are dangerous. I don't care who's throwing the ball. So these guys in the secondary have to rally and tackle because, like we said earlier, there's going to be run game to deal with, and then there's going to be little pop passes, shots. Like there's going to be, play action. They're going to be getting guys open in the flat, and they're going to try to run for 30 yards. Like that's how they're going to get their explosives. So, guys are going to play. If you're going to play too high, rally and tackle. And if you're going to man up because you're afraid of the run game, guys have to be really good. You got to be able to play too high and stop the run against this group. And that means the edges have to be really good. Mafe has been on a tear. The guys in this front, I like them. They have to wreck this game. They have to wreck this game in the run game.
So final section here, we got the big line games. We've got 4, 49ers at Rams, Panthers at Raiders, Broncos at Buccaneers, Giants at Browns. Tell me which team is on the upset alert this week, and why is it the Buccaneers?
Okay. First off, I'm happy to see these games starting to pop up because that means that like not every game is like you got to keep your eye on it in real time. You're trying to watch 20 games at once. I don't mind having Carolina, Vegas on the tiny TV. I don't mind having New York and Cleveland. New York, I am pledging to not watch a Giants game until they win the game. Until they win a game, I am not going to watch all 22 of the Giants. I will watch condensed version, TV copy. I'll watch highlights. I'll read about the Giants. I'll fucking get on the Giants message boards. I'll watch Neighbors, but I'm not going to watch a full game of all 22 of the Giants yet until they show me that there's something worth watching.
Daniel Jones cut his beard,
which is a huge red flag. Again, it's like, yeah, he looked real rizzy up there with his facial hair.
Yeah.
And I had somebody say I look like Daniel Jones once he grew a beard. And I was like, is that good or bad?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't want to look like Daniel Jones.
You don't.
I think that was a racist comment by somebody.
I was just about to say that's a little racist.
It is racist because I don't look like Daniel Jones. I kind of was taken aback by that. Somebody added me. It was like, I don't know, Chris. I was like, I know. We don't look alike at all. But when he grew that beard, I was like, I don't know what to make of this because my rule. When somebody's got sudden facial hair, a sudden facial hair change, or a fucking drastic haircut,
if I came in here with a fade with waves, dreads off, you would think something's going on.
I'd be so worried. Have you ever thought about a fade?
Not for a long time.
I've thought about it for a short time.
Well, I was a person throughout my whole life, I wanted to grow my hair. And then the one time where I did grow my hair, I was in 8th grade and I had just transferred from public school to private school. And I was in that in-between stage. My hair was kind of getting long. And I was getting looks at my private school. They were just like, maybe you should get a haircut.
That's and that's the opposite. When you walk into a locker room as a white guy with no facial hair, your teammates give you so much shit.
You look like a serial killer.
It's so true. And to this day, I still grow facial hair because of Cliff Ryan.
Cliff
Ryan, my roommate.
If I've never seen you without facial hair, and then you walk in without
I'm just talking about. We had like when I would walk in with a shaved face, and I used to shave in college. Like that changed quick when I got in the pros because all my teammates were like, bro, you can't do that. Like, we don't want to see, like, where's your stash? I can't trust you. That was kind of like but now Daniel Jones, he's clean shaven again. And he's getting ready to take on this Browns defense. I will say this. I'm kind of having fun with the Giants. Like, I know what's going on. Okay. What's going on is the whole offense is neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's to me kind of what it is. This is going to come down to how well their defense plays. If they want a fighting chance, they have to be able to frustrate Cleveland.
Dexy.
Jacksonville came up with 3 plays in that game. Really, it was just like 3-4 big plays, right? And Jacksonville is probably a markedly better offense than the Giants. Like, whatever you think of Trevor Lawrence, whatever you think of their front, whatever you think of their weapons outside, like the Giants are dealing with a lot more. So this could be a game where you're like, I don't know, your best hope is that Myles Garrett's not 100%. He was DNP with a foot this week. Okoronkwo has a concussion. I think the defense has to just tighten up because the challenge is going to be bigger than you even thought. Both Cleveland's tackles look to be up. Conklin looks to be back. Wills is back up. Not saying Wills is a world beater, but if you're Kayvon Thibodeau, if you're Brian Burns, you have to wreck the game. Like, that was going to be the way to victory for this team, or the way to a cover, if you're interested in that. The whole time, like, your two edge guys are some of your better players. They got to find a way to wreck the game. That's what you brought Brian Burns in for. These tackles should not be able to block him. I don't care if it's Conklin. I don't care if it's Wills. So, the whole thing for me is this defense has got to put the clamps down. They're going on the road. You're not going to have crowd noise in your favor. You got to hope that you can disrupt Deshaun Watson to make him look more like the guy week 1 than week 2. And I thought Cleveland did a really good job week 2 of scheming up easier throws for him. His ADOT's like average depth of target was like 6 yards last week. So this offense is a lot less explosive than it was. Cooper started slow, right? And I just don't think the vibes are great. These are two teams. This is the bad vibes bowl. Really.
Famous.
It really is. This could be his week. I don't know. I don't really think so. I think they're trying to build on last week with Deshaun and just get his legs under him so that he actually looks like a functioning quarterback. This and Carolina out of the 4. You mentioned Denver.
Yeah.
You mentioned
the 49ers game is the injury,
LA hosting. Yeah.
It's the injury report game.
It's the walk-in wounded bowl. And for the Rams, if you think that you're gonna host the Niners with Jonah's down, Avila's down, no boom, your 2 best receivers are down, it's going to be really hard to move the ball on this team. And I got to tell you, I feel for Matt Stafford. I really do. And I felt for Matt Stafford a lot of times throughout his career. Like, this could be one of those games that it feels like Detroit.
You don't feel bad for Purdy?
No. Fuck, would I feel bad for Purdy?
No McCaffrey, no Deebo Samuels.
He's 15 years younger than Matt Stafford. He don't even need to take glucosamine. He feels good rolling out of bed. And yeah, they're down Deebo. They might be down Kittle. But what you still have is Jordan Mason, who ran for a bunch of yards last week. You got Trent Williams. You got that front.
Ayuk hasn't showed up yet.
Ayuk has not showed up yet, but he will soon.
Okay.
He will soon.
It's still preseason for him.
We still haven't seen Pearsall either.
Haven't seen Pearsall. Ayuk in 3 over the last 3 seasons without Deebo on the field. He gets a 29% target share, 45% air yard share, and almost 3 yards per route run.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How hard is it for a DC like Shula to change your game plan when stars like McCaffrey and Deebo, and if Kittle doesn't play? How much does that switch up your original game plan?
Well, I think you can just allocate resources elsewhere. Like, not having to deal with the threat of Deebo is huge.
Yep.
Like, obviously Christian McCaffrey being out is foundational to
but
what
Deebo
they do.
In motion, running back and forth.
And Jordan Mason, but it's the sideline to sideline shit that Miami does so well, that San Francisco does so well, that the field becomes more vertical and less horizontal. You know what I'm saying? As a front, as a group of linebackers who got to have good eyes, like, you don't have the threat of Deebo on a fly sweep. You don't have now. Ayuk can do some things that are a little bit like Swiss Army knifey, but Debo's 1 of 1. Kittle's 1 of 1. You think about like the run front. If they're down Kittle, there is a chance that the Rams have to stop the run. Like to me, that's if you're Mike Shula, you're saying, holy shit, because if you weren't down Kittle, then you still have Trent Williams and George Kittle, and you can line them up next to each other, and you can move individuals. You can move groups of people, But if you don't have Kittle, you definitely feel better in the run front. You're down McCaffrey, the whole thing. You're down Deebo. But the injuries I mentioned And if you're a Niners fan, I'm not trying to make excuses for the Rams and not make excuses for you. You're a better team, right? Like that defense, Nick Bosa rushing against this line, Leonard Floyd, Hargrave, like they're just stout up front, and the backers patrolling the middle of the field. Like I think Stafford's going to get hit a lot this week. And so for the Rams, you've got to run the ball, which good luck with that. Jackson's got to be able to block Floyd. You know, you got to leave him singled up more, and then you've got to do what you can to chip out, slide to Bosa, like whatever you can do to give Matt Stafford time. I'm not saying he can't throw on this secondary. I'm just saying if he's got no time, it's going to get ugly. Again, Rams fans, I don't hate the Rams. I did this last time a couple years ago where I was like, hey, maybe they should I think it was last year. Coming into last year, I was like, 22 looked a lot like this year. And I was like, man, I don't know how long they can do this. Like, you know, at some point, maybe you should sell off some of your assets. And the one guy, I was like, they'd never do it, but like they could get something for Aaron Donald, give him to a contending team this year. Well, they turned out to be a contending team. So there was never going to be none of that exodus was going to happen. But this year, if they start 0-3, you really should think about getting something for somebody.
You're a tanker?
I'm a guy.
You're a tanker? I wouldn't take you as a tanker.
No, but if you're 0-3, if you're 0-3, am I crazy?
So I just don't get how you tank.
You're going to pick the phone up when people call is all I'm saying.
But my thing is,
last year you don't pick the phone
How do you tank efficiently, like without getting?
I don't think you're tanking. What you're doing is you're trying to get capital for people that are going to be washed or older in a year, or like maybe Stafford can't do this forever, although I think he can in the right situation. And maybe that's what McVay's saying. As long as Stafford's here, we're fine. Maybe it's Cooper Kupp. You know, maybe it's Kyron Williams. Maybe I don't know. But the point is, like, if
keeping Puka.
Yeah. If you start 0-3, the way this team looks right now, it's going to be a long year. You know, and they could turn things around. They're only 0-2. Heck, they could figure out a way to beat these guys. If they beat these guys, circle the wagons.
0-3 season's done, most likely.
It's going to be hard in this division. It's going to be hard in the NFC, period. You know, you look at, like, Packers are going to get Jordan Love back. Minnesota looks like a stout team. Arizona's a little wagon. They're in your division. Like, they're going to be challenging for a wild card. Seattle's going to challenge for a wild card. I don't want to put the cart before the little horse with Arizona. But there's a chance that they could be, you know, you just got thumped by that team. No amount of injuries should mean you get beat like that. And, hey, if they played Detroit tough, admirably on the road. They're a tough group. They're a well-coached group. But then you get your ass kicked by Arizona, and I'm kind of like, maybe they're worse than I thought. I thought that I thunk. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're worse than I thunk this year.
Thunk it.
And so I would just like, hey, everything's got to be on the table. If you lose this game in ugly fashion, I don't know. Here's a little dirty secret that Chris Sims is talking about. I saw this with Shanahan. This is more of a big picture thing, but like Shanahan versus Spags, Schwartz, and Flores. I don't know if he left out some wins over the last couple years, but it looks to me like what he's saying is that Shanahan's 0-8 against those three coordinators. And what do all three of those guys do? They heat you up. You know what I'm saying? And so whether it's the four-man rush with Schwartz, whether it's Spags and his blitzes, early down, late down, Flores, you know, he is the blitz guy right now. Maybe Chris Shula says, hey, you're shorthanded. Let's heat this guy up. I'm not saying they're equipped to do it, but maybe your best shot is, I mean, for me, if I'm the Rams, I'm saying, hey, early down run blitzes. You know, like maybe we pick our spots on third down, but like I gotta bring bodies to the dance floor on first and second down, especially if Kittle's out.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
No, anyway, so I don't see this as an upset alert type game, but with McVay, I don't want to ever sell him short or his team short. I'm saying it's an if like they don't like what they're looking at after this game or in 2 weeks. Who do they play in 2 weeks? Can somebody pull that up? maybe they're sellers, and I was wrong on it last year. I was wrong about the team.
They've got the Packers.
And this thing about the NFL, every game is tough to win. And when you start 0-2 and you look at your schedule and you got San Francisco, it's like, man, when do we get like a gimme here? Fuck, when people are injured, there are no gimmies.
Mm-mm.
And so, yeah, I would put Carolina and New York as the upset alert teams. Watch Denver and LA win. But I just think for Carolina, it's that spot. It's like the same situation, well, different, right? Because that was like ding dong, the witch is dead. We've got Antonio Pierce. We beat up on the Giants. Remember that game last year where Daniel Jones got hurt and we had a surprise interim coach, and it was that new life that got breathed into the situation. I'm not saying, because everything I hear out of Carolina is guys are very empathetic to Bryce's plight, like over the last 18, 20 weeks of his NFL career. I would say this, though. There is an infusion of confidence and hope that comes when you play, especially early in the season, because there's a lot of vets. Like, imagine being Jadeveon Clowney and coming from Baltimore and he's on his bag tour, and the bag tour stops in Carolina. And you're like, bro, like, I am 30-something years old. I got to deal with this. Adam Thielen, I mean, like, not the kid's fault, but I got to deal with this. Now you've got a guy who's played a lot of football, and maybe he can just run the offense a little bit more efficiently, give this group a chance to learn the offense with in a controlled environment. Like, here's something that maybe they should have considered doing. Started the season with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Because you could have just said, hey, that's your rookie year, man. And maybe eventually Bryce comes back in the picture.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether it's Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield style somewhere else, or it's week 8. Let's say Dalton gets hurt or doesn't look great.
And that's the thing about playing quarterback. It's just one hit. Like, we can see.
Oh, we're going to see him again.
We can see Bryce Young second half of this game. We don't want to see that happen. We don't want to see anyone get hurt, but it's the NFL.
But what I'm saying is this, is like, there was some credence to like starting this season out with Andy learning the new system, something he's done a lot over his career.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce never learned the first system. From what it sounds like. That first system was a shit show. He had 8 different voices in his ears. And when I said on Inside the NFL, I'm like, well, I'd love to see him in a new system. What I mean by that is not just the scheme, because we did just see him in a new system. I also mean like just a new situation.
Yeah.
And the only way to give him the time to develop is for him to be where he is right now. So I'm not criticizing necessarily the outcome of the bench. Like, the outcome of the benching might be good for him, but I think it's so short-sighted. And like, what was the plan if 2 weeks you were going to yank him? I would have rather you just sit him, give him time, and throw that first year out the window. Now you've seen a 2-game sample size of the kid with your new offense, and you're like, fuck him. Okay. So anyways, enter Andy Dalton, who's played a lot of good football in his career. Haven't seen him a lot in a while, but like, I can remember him going up to Seattle, I think. Was that in Carolina? And I think they got a win up there, or at least they played him close. Dalton in a spot start is kind of dangerous for Vegas. They got to come off that game.
Seattle last season. Carolina. They lost 37-27.
It was they put some good tape out there. Like,
yeah, you had a good game.
I'm not saying he's a world beater, but what I am saying is it's a dangerous spot for Vegas. You play in Las Vegas. You get off the flight last week. It's probably midnight Vegas time or whatever. You hit the streets. Everybody's telling you how great you are. And all week, all anybody's talking about is you guys are favored, right? Like, because you are in Vegas, right? Like, and gambling is a big part of it. So all week, you're favored. How do you handle it when you're favored? You know what I mean? How do you handle it when you're the hunted? This team's going to be kind of pissed off. They're dealing with a lot of shit. Denver, I think the only way here is if Denver can run the ball and the Bucs can't at all. Like Vita Vea and Kancey are down, I think, and that's a big deal. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I get a a mulligan from MGM?
No, I don't think MGM, as much as we like MGM and they've made our show that much better, I don't think they can like erase your bad decisions. This guy bet Denver to be 9-0.
No, not 9-0, just 9 wins.
Oh,
just 9 wins.
Yeah, I told you not to take the alt total. Like what?
I mean,
Bo Nix is not throwing the ball. You talk about like Bo Nix's ADOT is less than J.K. Dobbins' average rush. All right, I said J.K. Dobbins rushes for a short bus every time he touches the ball. Bo Nix throws for like a Kia every time he throws the ball. It's just so. This is the perfect week for the Bucs to be down a safety. It's the perfect week for Izine and these guys who you haven't heard of to step up and just fly to the football, play things top down. Don't fall asleep on the shots. I can tell by how casual I am about this breakdown that Denver's going to go down there and win. But I will say this for Baker Mayfield and that group, not unlike Kansas City, where they're coming off a win, there was a lot of things they could have done better in that game. They got outgained 2-1, and I thought Baker played pretty well. But at the same time, they want to be better. And I think Mike Evans on PS2 is a lot of fun. Two big bodies, but the reason I think this goes in Mike Evans' favor, and you shouldn't be afraid to throw him the ball, is like he's Mike Evans, first off. But secondly, you can't press him. And that's a big body. He's going to want to get up on him. You can't press Mike Evans. I know that. I've never played the position. No one presses Mike Evans. So it's McMillan on Godwin. Okay. It's the Bucs McMillan, Jalen McMillan, as a number 3 who's had a couple explosives. Like maybe this is the game. If you can't get it going to your other 2 guys, like maybe it's a game for him. But the way the Bucs took a while to run the football last year, it's kind of concerning to me that they haven't looked better to start the season. And this would be a game you should get that going. The Broncos, they're tough, they're physical, but they don't scare you. And
Sean Payton, 22-10 versus spread, went on a 2-game losing streak.
I want somebody to run those numbers without Drew Brees. You know what I'm saying? And so here's the deal, because how many 2-game losing streaks did they have last year? Because that's the sample size outside of New Orleans. I think if the Bucs are who I think they are, this is that they had it week 1. They were the better team, and they ran roughshod over those guys. Scored 37 points. I think the Liam Cohen thing's going well, and I think this is the type of game the Bucs have to look sharp in. You're hosting a team that's not to your level. You got to take care of them, and you got to get up and get a lead, because you don't want to end up in a game where we leave these guys hanging around. All it could take is 2 shots into plus territory to score enough to beat this team. So take your shots to Mike Evans. PS2 gets handsy. You're in plus territory. It could take 17 points to win this game. So I'm not saying don't be aggressive, but it could be a good game to see if you can run the ball and see what the issues are up front for you. School, the guy that was in for Gedeke and, got kind of abused by Hutch, he's got to deal with Cooper. Cooper's a nice rusher. And, Zach Allen, I've given props to. Mock and those guys got to take care of him. But this should be a chance. This should be a chance for them to work on the things that they need to work on and come away with a win. The upset specials. Carolina, not saying I'm giving them out, but as a cover for sure. And then I like the Giants. That's a lot of points in a low total game. By the way, and I'll bring this up in the locks, 75% under for these teams so far this season. So 3 out of 4. And then September games totals 38 and lower, 11-3 to the under. 4-0 this year. That's wild. And if we've seen any trend, it's like bet on the defense so far this year. So anyways, trying to make every game interesting to you, because they are to me, except for the Giants. All right. And here's Joey Bosa. He's just joining us from and don't bitch about the audio. Do me a favor. I know there's your audio snobs out there, and we don't always have it right, but Joey's in a hotel ballroom. What you're hearing in the background is his team dining. I think it makes the interview that much better because you get to hear real NFL players eating and clanging glasses and drinks and
ASMR.
having conversations in the background. And you get to hear Joey Bosa.